Hi beautiful, welcome to my channel. In today's video we are going to be talking about the Huda Beauty Lunar New Year launch, which is the Wild Tiger palette. This is not the first time we see this palette. It actually came out during the fall time with a different packaging along with the rest of the Wild Obsessions collection from Huda Beauty. This was the one palette in a different packaging that was exclusive to her website, and the one palette that back then, because I went ahead and got my palettes at Sephora, I did not get. It's come back with new packaging. I actually like this packaging much better. It's like bolder and it celebrates the Lunar New Year, and you can now get this palette with this packaging at Sephora. I will of course leave you both links down below in case you guys are interested. In this video we are going to be talking about the palette. I'll of course show you some swatches, and I'll also do 3 eyeshadow tutorials with this palette. I'm pretty excited to now having added this palette to my Obsessions palette collections, and I can't wait to tell you all about it. So let's go ahead and get started. So on the Sephora website it says this is a limited edition champagne gold palette with taupe neutrals and a sexy terracotta pink. It is cruelty free and it comes in recyclable packaging. It also talks about the palette has new innovative shades. It's got shimmers, metallics and mattes, all of which are fiercely pigmented. It is a versatile palette, which I definitely agree with because I did 3 very different eye looks with it for today's video, and it retails for $29. I personally really like this color story. I was actually really excited to get it when it first came out in the fall, but there were so many releases coming out back to back that I ended up skipping it because if I got it I wasn't going to be able to post about it anyways, and it ended up working out for me because it is now the new year. They repackaged it and I get to have it in this beautiful red packaging, and I now have time to do a whole dedicated video with 3 eye looks with it. The reason this was one of the Wild Obsessions palettes that kind of piqued my interest most when they first came out in the fall is because it is kind of like a more basic one. It has the mustardy colors, it has the golds, the burgundies, which I personally really love, and of course that pink shimmer in the center, which is absolutely beautiful. Now I knew I was going to really like the formula and the pigmentation of this palette because the Wild Obsessions palette collection has the Good Obsessions palette formula. What I mean by this is Huda Beauty makes lots of these 9 shadow palettes, which I absolutely love. I have a ton of them back there, and sometimes they can be a little bit hit or miss. Some formulas are not as good as others. All of these Obsessions palettes are made in China. I still really love them. I think that the formulas are great, but they are not as consistent as her Italian formula. They're just like a little bit less creamy sometimes. And something that I have personally noticed, and you can call me out on it if you think I'm crazy, is I feel like when the Obsessions palettes launch in the springtime, they're usually not the good formula, and then she usually has another Obsessions palette launch in the fall time, and those usually have much better pigmentation. For example, the Pastel Obsessions collection palettes, and you can tell I've given this a lot of thought oddly, were a spring launch, and that launch was a catastrophe. Like, those palettes were horrible. I don't even have them in my collection because I could not get ripped off like that. Like, those were really bad. But in the fall of that same year, the Nude Obsessions collections palette released, and those are actually the best Obsessions palettes that Huda has released. Then in the spring of last year she launched the Brown Obsessions collections palettes, which were okay. Like, the color stories were nice, but the formulas were a little bit inconsistent, and there were a couple of shades that like really didn't have much pigmentation at all. And then in the fall time of last year she released the Wild Obsessions collections, which are once again the good, more consistent, more creamy, more pigmented formula, and that is the collection that this palette is a part of, so I was expecting it to perform just as good as the rest of the Wild Obsessions palettes were, and I was right about that. Let me go ahead and show you the swatches I did with this palette, and you can see how vibrant the yellow mustardy shades are. I absolutely love the pigmentation of the dark burgundy shade. The pink terracotta type of color I think is really special and not a super popular type of color. I feel like they're usually a little bit warmer than this one, but I love this one because it's the perfect mix between the burgundy and the mustardy shades that the palette has, and then the shimmer shades in the palette are also amazing, very pigmented, very metallic. I did notice when I was doing my eye looks with the palette that the metallic shades that come in this one can be a little bit crumbly and fallouty, so I would definitely recommend using this palette the way that I did, which was I always did my eyes before I did the rest of my makeup, and that way I avoided any fallout underneath the eye area. With that said, let me go ahead and show you guys the eye looks that I created with this one, and I'll come back to give you my final thoughts. Let's get started with the first look, and I grabbed the lightest matte color in the palette and I'm using it as my transition shade with a big fluffy brush. This one is my refer number 15. A little bit more. It's like a very light mustardy transition color and it is blending out very nicely. I'm focusing it mostly on the outer corner and then blending it all the way in through the crease. And then on a pinched blending brush, I'm using the matte shade on the bottom right of the palette, which is this really beautiful yellow, and I am going to intensify the outer corner of the eye with it, start blending it into the crease, and doing the same thing on the inner part, just darkening things up. Let's make it meet right here in the center and blend the edges with the brush, just back and forth. So now that that color is blended, I'm going to go in with a flat brush and the shimmer gold on the first row of the palette, and I'm going to tap it on the edges of my matte yellow shade right here. Just tap it, and I'm going to repeat on the inner part, leaving a gap in the center of the eyelid. And with the same brush and the center color in the palette, we are going to fill that gap. So I'm swiping and tapping it in place, just blending it into the shimmer gold. And I'm also going to use that shade for the inner corner of the eye. So I'm tapping it in here and blending it in ever so slightly. For my under eye, I'm starting with the mustard yellow and I'm going to add it to the inner and outer corners of the under eye area with my refer number 26 brush. Back with my flat brush and the center shimmer, I'm going to back and forth add the shimmer to the under eye area right in the center here. And then with a small fluffy brush, in this case my refer number 14, and our transition color, I'm going to diffuse everything. I'm going to apply a brown eyeliner to my waterline. And this right here is the first look before mascara. I really love yellowy mustardy eyeshadow, so I'm all about this. Let me show you what it looks like after I apply some mascara. Okay, I'm back with some mascara on, and this is the final first look with this palette from Huda Beauty. What do you guys think? I love the mustardy color. I love that that center shade had a little bit of pink in it so that it gives it a bit more of a contrast, and I can't wait to keep playing with it. I have some darker, more intense shades that I'm intrigued by. So let's go ahead and move on to look number 2. Let's get started with look number 2, and I'm going to use our transition color on a refer number 15 brush to go around the crease of the eye, just back and forth, doing little swiping motions just to blend it out. With the same brush, I'm going into the top left mustardy matte shade, and I'm going to intensify things. Just patting the color in place to intensify it and blending it into our transition shade. And with my reference number 1 brush, I'm grabbing the rose color in the middle on the bottom row, and I'm going to intensify the outer corner of the eye with it and start building it into the crease, just blending it up ever so slightly with this pinched blending brush, adding a little bit more as I go. Once that's done, with a flat brush, I'm going into the dark shimmer shade in the palette, which is like a dark rose color, and I'm going to tap it in place right here in the center of the eyelid. Just patting it in place right here. And back with the outer corner color, I'm just blending it in, just tapping over any edges. I've been very careless with this back here, but we are going to clean up underneath the eye and fix that, so don't worry about it yet. And with the yellow gold shade at the bottom left of the palette, I'm going to fill in the inner part of the eyelid. And I'm still using my flat Refer number 28 brush. Alrighty, let's do a little bit of cleanup. See how much better that looks already? Alright, so this right here is the top of look number 2. I'm going to do some face makeup and I'll be right back and we'll finish it up. Back with makeup on, and I'm applying the outer corner color to the lower lash line, connecting it here at the end. And I'm using a Refer number 26 brush for it. Blending that out with the transition color in Refer number 14, which is a very thin blending brush, super soft. Right here, just back and forth. And for the inner corner of the eye, I'm going in with the color in the center of the palette. I feel like this is the lightest shimmer shade, so it's the one that I'll probably use for every look on the inner corner. And just tie it right here to the crease. Okay, I used the burnt orange eyeliner in the waterline of my eye, and this right here is the final second look with this palette. Really nice and simple, gold, warm, smoky eye. I'm going to do some mascara and I'll be right back to show you the final result. Alrighty, back with some mascara on. And this right here is the final second look with this palette. Let me go ahead and put on some lashes and I'll show you with some lashes on as well. Okay, back with some lashes. These are just Ardell Wispies, and this right here is the final second look with the Wild Tiger palette from Huda Beauty. It's a nice warm gold smoky eye, which I absolutely love. Let's go ahead and move on to the third and last look. Okay, so last but not least, let's get started with the third look, and this is going to be the more sultry, dark, sexy one of them all. But we are going to start it the same way we did the rest, which is with our mustardy light transition color and the Refer number 15 brush, and I'm just kind of packing and swiping the brush at the same time. Pack and swipe right here. A nice even wash of color all over the crease of the eye. And then I'm grabbing the dark burgundy matte shade and I'm going to start building it up on the outer corner of the eye with a Refer number 1 brush, which is a more pinched blending brush. Just pack it. And I'm also going to pack this shade on the inner third of my eye right here. Now there is a huge gap between the depth in this color and the depth in our transition color. So what we're going to do is we are going to put a color in between the two of them. So I'm going in with that deep rose color at the bottom of the palette, and we are going to smoke out the burgundy with it. Make sure it ties together in the center here and just blend everything back and forth with a little bit of like a medium pressure I'm putting because I want it to move the product. See, so right now I feel like the burgundy is blended into the rose, but the rose needs a little bit more blending into the transition color. So I'm going back with my fluffy brush from the beginning, and I didn't add anything else to it. I'm just going to run it through the edges so that everything blends into one another nicely. I'm adding a little bit more dark burgundy color to the outer corner here. I feel like I was missing a little more. And this is how things are looking like. So we have now a nice transition between the three colors. With a flat brush, this is my reference number 28, and the dark metallic color in the palette, I'm going to start tapping the edges of the mat right here from the crease to the lash line. And I'm going to do the same thing on the inner part, just tapping that shade in place right here and leaving a little gap in the center. And then I'm going in with the middle shade, which I think is my favorite from this palette, and I'm going to tap it in the center of the eye and over the metallic shade ever so slightly, just like this. That formula is incredible. I really like it. Back with the mid-tone shade, I'm going in and just blending everything on the crease nicely. Very light pressure just to make it all a little more cohesive here. Okay, and so this right here is the top of the first look. I'm going to just clean underneath it a little bit because I had a little bit of fallout, and sharpen this outer edge. So let me just put some makeup on and I'll be right back and we'll finish this up. Back with makeup on, and I'm going to get the darkest matte shade in the palette on the tip of a reference number 26 brush, and we are going to place it underneath the outer corner of my lower lash line and a little bit right here underneath the tear duct area. In the center of the under eye, I'm going to place our lightest shimmer color, the one we have in the center of the top. And with the transition shade on a reference number 14 brush, I'm going to smoke out the under eye area. I forgot to say I also applied a brown eyeliner to my waterline. This one is from Natasha Denona, but everything I've used in this video will be linked down below. And the last step is our inner corner shade, which is the same one that we use right in the center of the eyelid. And I am applying it with the reference number 26 brush. Okay, so this right here is the final third look before any mascara. Let me go ahead and put on some mascara and I'll be right back and show you the final results. I do love me a dark sultry burgundy halo eye, so of course I'm obsessed with this look. Let me be right back. I'm back with some mascara on, and I did just do look number 2 on this eye, so my mascara is not looking the best right now because I couldn't fully take it off from looks 2 to 3, but just imagine my lashes more separated than they are. This right here is what it looks like with just mascara on, and I am going to show you with some lashes as well. Back with some lashes on, and this right here is the final third look. Nice and burgundy, a halo eye, dark and sultry. I absolutely love it. So let's go ahead and get into my final thoughts. Okay, so those were all 3 looks with that palette. As you can see, look number 3 is the one that I've been wearing throughout the whole video, and definitely my favorite. I just really love dark, sexy, burgundy type of eye looks. I feel like they complement my eyes, and I always feel very confident when wearing an eye look like this one. As far as my final thoughts on this palette, if this is a color story that you are into, and if you see yourself creating looks like the ones I just showed you, I would definitely go for it. It is $29 well spent in my opinion. And I like that you can now get the palette at Sephora. I have nothing against the Huda Beauty website, but I personally enjoy my 2-day shipping from Sephora way too much, and so if I can order it from Sephora, I usually always do. But like I said, I am leaving you both links down below, the one to the Huda Beauty website and the one to the Sephora website in case you are interested. Now, things to keep in mind is that I do think that some of these shimmer shades, especially like the gold ones and this dark one right here, are a little bit crumbly, so I would recommend always using this palette before you do your eyeshadow. And if you're someone who hates eyeshadows that have fallout, then I would probably not go for this palette. I don't think it's like the worst fallout ever, but it was noticeable enough for me to point it out. So if you don't like fallout in your palettes, then don't go for this one. The shades that I don't think have any fallout fallout are the matte shades and this one right here in the center, but the more chunky metallic shades did have a little bit more fallout to them. All in all, if I had to rate this palette, it's like an 8.5 out of 10 for me. Besides the crumbliness of some of the metallic shades, the other thing that would deduct half a point is I feel like color story wise some of the colors are kind of close to one another. Like we have this transition shade here and then this mustard color down here, and so this one kind of feels a little bit unnecessary. Like I used it in look number 2 to darken up the transition color and I don't feel like it made much of a difference. So I feel like this right here is space that we could have used for like a different color of eyeshadow, and I feel kind of the same about the two gold metallic shades, this one and the more yellow one down here. They are slightly different, but for a 9-pan eyeshadow palette I feel like I would like to have used that space to give the palette a little bit more variety, because those two gold metallic shades are kind of close to one another. Overall, I do recommend the palette if you're into this color story though. I feel like you would enjoy using it, and I do really like this packaging over the previous packaging. I feel like it's a little bit different and more special, you know? So those are my thoughts on this palette. I really hope that you guys enjoyed the review and the tutorials. If you have this palette, let me know down in the comment section whether or not you like it, and if you recreate any of my looks and you post them on your Instagram, please don't forget to tag me so that I can see it. It's at Patty C Alonso, the way it shows on the screen. I love you guys so much. Thank you for watching today's video. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and that is it from me today. I really hope to see you back in the next video. Bye.